Tired of swiping left on sheeple? Frustrated with dating apps that clearly are government honeypots? Then it's time to find love on Conspiracy Companion. Whether you think the moon landing was fake, birds are government drones, or that the Denver airport is a secret Illuminati headquarters, we'll find somebody who gets you. You can chat securely. Our messages are encrypted, then re-encrypted, then printed out and buried in a remote bunker in the desert just to be safe. You can ditch traditional profile pics. Why risk facial recognition software? Instead, upload a blurry photo of your shadow or just a drawing of yourself. First date options that are vetted for safety. No restaurants, because we know there are too many listening devices. No movie theaters, full of Hollywood brainwashing. And definitely no parks. 5G towers are everywhere. And for a limited time, use promo code POSTMORTEM to unlock a free tinfoil hat, because you can never be too careful. Conspiracy Companion. Find someone who believes in you, and also in chemtrails. Welcome to Movie Postmortem, where we dissect films of all kinds, whether they're good, bad, or those guilty pleasures we just can't quit. I'm Reggie Hill, and I'm joined by my nephew, Isaiah Brown. Together, we're here to examine what worked, what didn't, and why we keep coming back for more. So grab your popcorn because no movie is safe from the scalpel on Movie Postmortem. Hello. This episode of Movie Postmortem is different than the ones that we've done in the past. Usually we just give you our highlights, our lowlights, and talk about our script stitch ups, but we don't actually do a full rundown of the plot. However, in our discussion of Moonfall, we actually got so much into discussing the entire plot that our recording went really long and we realized we didn't really stick to our traditional format. However, all of it is very interesting, at least in our opinion, and we wanted to give it to you uncut. So what I'm going to do is to actually cut this episode in half. And so today you can listen to Moonfall discussion part one. And then in a couple days, we will upload part two of our Moonfall discussion. Enjoy. Okay, so thanks for joining us on Movie Postmortem. Today we're going to be talking about Moonfall, a disaster film that came out in 2022, written and directed by Roland Emmerich. Okay, and so let's just dive into the plot right now. So after, astronaut Brian Harper has returned to Earth and been fired by NASA.
Yeah, they fire him because like, no, that guy died and it's your fault or whatever. And it's funny that this is what happens here because it's revealed later that this whatever is just a huge cover from NASA saying like, oh,
Yeah.
the moon is one giant cover up. So I'm just like, either way, why are we still firing him?
Yeah, and firing him makes no sense for many reasons, and this is where again, like I think I'll pepper in my causes of death as we go along with the discussion of the plot. This is where it's so ridiculous. I actually had to look this fact up. Only two astronauts have ever been fired by NASA. It was actually kind of for the same thing, where they were both having an affair while they were on Earth, and it caused the one woman to drive across country like wearing a diaper or something, and she tried to kill the her lover's, spouse and all this other stuff. And then later, after investigation and the public scrutiny and all of that publicity, both astronauts were failed. Those are the only astronauts who have ever been officially
Oh,
fired by NASA. So just the
oh,
fact that this film started with the firing of an astronaut was so ridiculous to me.
over something that's literally not even his fault.
So I was like, okay, I guess we'll start here. And
the
then
worst
later,
part is the worst part is about is that he's the only one that shouldn't have been fired.
yes, I was like, it makes no sense. And so we
You think
see,
after that he would get like higher clearance to explain like what happened?
yeah, it
Because like
makes no sense.
it's so dumb. Because like why would he be fired over something like that? Because it's revealed that oh it's a part of the cover up. But if it's part of a cover up, then just let him in
Yeah,
on it so he
exactly. I
won't
was
say
like, it
anything.
makes no sense. It's like this film is based on a conspiracy theory. And so what kind of happened when you read about it is Roland Emmerich read a book about the moon being hollow and being a mega structure. And so I'm not kidding. That's essentially how this film was made. He got a hold of a conspiracy theory book and was like, man, this is some great stuff in here. I want to write a movie about this. And that's what kills this entire film. If this film were simply about the moon falling to Earth and all of the drama and stuff that can happen there, it'd be a standard disaster flick. This makes no sense.
Yeah, and also a quick fun fact for all you gamers out there. This isn't my opinion, but it's just something that has been told to me from watching some reviews. This movie, this is pretty much just Halo. Roland Emmerich stole Halo's plot line, and he just made a movie out of it. That's pretty much what this is.
Yeah, most of
And
the stuff that happens in this film has been ripped off from other films or video games or something. Very little in this film is original.
oh, absolutely. But yeah, let's get back to the plot real quick because we still have a little bit to go through with this one.
Yeah. And
So,
so, you know,
and so
10 years
this,
later, you
yeah,
know,
yeah, they skip 10 years
10
as if
years.
nothing of substance happened between those 10 years.
Yeah. And so we see this guy, Casey Houseman, who is, you know, supposedly this really smart guy who is breaking into some lab at UC Irvine to use the, you know, telescopes or some equipment to look at the moon. And he discovers that the moon is drifting out of its orbit towards Earth. And you get the idea that this guy is kind of a nerdy online stalker, conspiracy theorist who has been bugging NASA to listen to him for a long time, and they don't. And he's like, "Oh my God, I have all this evidence to, you know, go to the public." He
Yeah,
knows all about Brian Harper and his incident, so he ends up going to talk to Brian Harper when he's going to talk to some kids, you know, at an event.
and it's great because no one is believing him about any of this because he sounds like a lunatic. And so, what is his solution? He goes to Twitter, and miraculously, everyone believes him overnight.
Yes. Everybody in the world believes this conspiracy theory because he just posts the moon is falling out of orbit and it causes a global panic.
Even better, you want to know how he figured out how you figured out that the moon was falling out of orbit? He used NASA's equipment. He
Yes.
literally went through their system, used their telescope to see the moon, and NASA didn't say anything, but he did.
Yes. That's part of the type of writing that this film has that makes absolutely no sense. And part of the reason like this film was also hard for me to evaluate is again, as a scientist, I really get upset when I see science depicted not just poorly, but you have to go out of your way to write science this bad. So the whole film really hinges on the fact that you have to believe that NASA would try to keep this a secret when everyone around the globe
Could
could
just look
simply
up.
look up, use their own instruments, and determine the same conclusion. Where you see the head of NASA when they realize, yes, the moon is falling out of orbit. He says, "Hey, everybody, keep this under wraps. Don't say anything." I'm like,
How?
why? Why or how would you do this?
How does anyone with a brain cover up the fact that the moon is falling out of orbit? It's like it's not like falling out of orbit, like oh, it's slowly like drifting away into space or whatever. No, it's coming into Earth. The
Yes.
orbit radius is slowly decreasing to where the moon will crash into Earth. So anyone with a brain can look at the TV and be like, "There's nothing to worry about. We have this in control," and then look up and see the moon slowly scraping across a mountain.
Yes, because in the film, the initial timeline that they give is this is going to happen over the course of 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, the moon will literally hit the Earth due to a lots of stupid plot stuff that gets accelerated even in the film. But it's something, again, it makes no sense that a head of NASA would try to cover this up because you can't cover that up. That'd be like trying to cover up the fact that, wait, you know what? The sun didn't rise this morning. Hey, guys, keep this a secret. Don't tell anybody.
Even better. Once he gives his speech saying there's nothing to worry about, he lies to the public. Then he just quits.
He quits. He quits his job, hands his director deputy clearance badge to, you know, Joe Fowler, Halle Berry's character, and is like, hey, you want to know all the secrets? Be my guest. I'm out, you know?
Okay, we're skipping around a whole lot, but that's just this movie is so off the wall that we can't help it.
Yeah, that's how the story starts. And that's the thing to me, like, you don't need the story to start in such a convoluted fashion. It's really bizarre that the writing tries to stick to something that only a conspiracy theorist, a particularly dumb conspiracy theorist, would actually believe. Because you have to believe, again, people are keeping secrets for, dozens, hundreds of years, and there's one person who is in charge of all, and it just doesn't make any sense. And
and
so,
and it's even better because once the lid gets blown off and where everyone's like, oh, the moon is falling, blah 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 blah. Everyone's like, okay, pack your suitcases, let's go Colorado, we'll be safe there. I'm just like, we will.
yeah.
If when the moon is crashing into Earth, where are we safe at?
Yeah,
Why are we safe in Colorado of all places?
it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And to me, that was the thing that it felt like it was kind of leftover plot points from like 2012, where one of the big things they worry about is like, oh, the water is going to be around the earth, the
Yeah,
tsunami.
the tides are rising, all that, all
Yeah.
the good
And so we
stuff.
need to go to the high ground. But I'm like, but yeah, like nothing in this film makes me think that they would be safe in Colorado. So
I'm just
yeah.
like, okay, you're thinking high ground because of the waters and whatnot, but what about the giant celestial body that's crashing into Earth? We can worry
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, and so it really doesn't make any sense. And again, this is just the start of the film. And
Yeah,
so
this is just the start.
this is the
We still
beginning.
we still have like an hour and 30 minutes left.
Yeah, and so after, the public find out that the moon is going to crash into Earth, which they find out and believe 100% through Twitter, which, like you said, is just fantastic in the way that everybody accepts this. you know, NASA sends up another mission, a manned mission to the moon.
Yeah, to try to figure out what the heck was actually going on
Oh,
those 10
yes,
years
of
ago.
course. Apologies. We forgot one major thing that happened in that 10-year time. There was a massive crater or a tube
Oh,
that
yeah.
was
A
dug.
giant tunnel that was discovered in I can't remember the place of the moon it was called.
Yeah, one of the craters of the moon, and nobody apparently saw this,
Yeah,
because
somehow.
everybody's
See,
keeping it secret or something.
and the best part about this movie is that it's all centered around America and China. No one else around the globe gives a crap for some
Hey,
reason.
you know why? Guess what country? One of their film studios put up some money for this film. China.
Okay,
So
and
what
all
is
right,
Joe
okay.
Fowler have an exchange student who lives with her who will use for the rest of the story because they financed the film?
Yeah, okay. Let's roll back a little bit because we skipped past a non-important plot point, but it's important for some reason in the
Okay.
movie. For some reason, the fired astronaut, everybody hates him for some reason.
Yeah, it's weird. All he did was to bring the shuttle back to Earth when it had lost power. But yeah, he's like a pariah everywhere.
Yeah, his wife divorced him. His wife moved on to another man. His kid hates him. This guy even worse than where his kid's like a delinquent. He was fleeing from the police with drugs. I'm just like, what?
Yeah. That's what happens when your dad prevents a space shuttle disaster.
I was just like, how is and it's like it made no sense when you think for even 2 seconds. Because this movie is like the definition of, oh, just turn your brain off and enjoy it. But like, even with your brain off, you'll be like, this doesn't make any sense at all.
I can't turn my brain off for this film. Like I said, there are too many things that are wrong. And that goes even beyond the scientific standpoint. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson, the, pop culture, expert who, scientist as well. He criticizes a lot of science in movies. Sometimes I'm like, I get it. Movies aren't designed to be, scientifically accurate.
Yeah. But
But
this
this
is
film,
so out there, dude.
even he said this film breaks any record for the most number of scientific inaccuracies per minute, beating the previous winner in his mind, which was Armageddon, directed by Michael Bay. That's
Oh,
how bad this
Lord.
film is.
Oh,
It's
Lord.
it is just disrespectful to science, in my opinion. But back to the story.
Yeah, back to the story. Yeah, okay. Where are we?
So everybody on Earth kind
Yeah.
of knows something's going wrong.
Oh, yeah.
NASA
Everyone
decides
believes
to
him.
send another probe, a manned, crew up to space. They send a probe, a camera probe or something down into this giant tunnel that's been burrowed into the surface of
Yeah.
the moon.
And yeah, and then the probe keeps going and like, huh, it's a whole lot deeper than we expect for like just a little crater. And then all of a sudden they're like, wait, what is that? And there's just like this huge like swarm of just like nanomachines or whatever. Like if you've seen it kind of looks like Venom, like the symbiote kind of, but like tech, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just like it's that same type of nanobot swarm that's really easy to do with special effects, so which is probably why they chose it.
Yeah,
It's just like that fluid, kind of a giant flock of birds or a giant flock of fish, in the ocean, how they would invade and move all kind of like together as one unit, although there's like 1,000 of them. It's that same swarm technology. And so it looks really cool, but it's just, it's been there, done that. And so the
yeah,
swarm.
we've seen this literally a million times before. This kind of like swarm kind of thing.
Yeah, until the swarm kills the three astronauts, on camera. And then the NASA people are like, okay, that's it, guys. We're tapping out. See ya.
It's like,
NASA
yep, that's
director
it.
quits.
It's like hug your family, get your suitcases. We're going to Colorado. He's like, what? We're not even going to try here. And Halle Berry, she almost gives up too, but then she digs. The director gives her more clearance to look up what happened. He was like, and there's this dude in the records department. He's just like,
It is funny because they meet a guy, a NASA official named Hollandfield, who is played by Donald Sutherland, who was almost doing the exact same thing he did in JFK, where he's like, I'm the guy who knows all the secrets. So I'll kind of tell you in a very hushed manner all this true cover up that happens. And
yeah,
this is where the moon takes an even bigger, dumber,
yeah.
step
It's not
forward.
just like he's like, I know all these secrets. I'm going to tell you my secrets, but once you leave, I'm going to put this bullet in between my eyes.
Yeah. And so he reveals that this is a cover up that's happened since
Yeah,
Apollo 11.
that
You
the
know,
moon is a giant cover up, that we don't actually know what the moon actually is or something.
so during the first moon landing, he was like, you were taught in school there was a 2-minute radio blackout, but that was because there were pulsating lights on the surface. So, the Apollo 11 astronauts all played along, didn't say anything, as did every other astronaut from then on. I'm like, wait, so why aren't our lead protagonists in on this too? So,
Exactly. They could have very easily been a part of this. Why did this have to be? This movie is like This movie is a conspiracy theorist like dream right here.
yes, because I'm like,
Like
you're saying, and that's again where it gets disrespectful. You're saying every astronaut was just part of the conspiracy. They're not implying it. They're literally saying that's what happened. And then that they understood because of various other things. I wouldn't even get into the scientific inaccuracies in this part, but they say like our data shows that the moon is hollow. No, it doesn't. No data shows that the moon is hollow. I am not going to discuss that on this podcast. It's not true. And the bigger thing that makes no sense, this guy, they know the conspiracy, they know what's really up there. They knew that their one chance to kill this swarm was this giant EMP, but the program
they
was
they they
abandoned
shut
for
it down.
budgetary reasons, which makes no sense at all.
I was just like, how do we need to have a serious talk about where the U.S. money goes after all this? Because how
Yeah.
was this shut down?
Yeah, like where are we spending money? Where you're like, that device we need to kill the giant alien swarm on the moon? Nah, that's not worth it. So that's why I said like it just keeps getting dumber and dumber. And so this is Donald Sutherland's only scene in the film, and then you don't see Holyfield ever again. So he's giving Joe Fowler all the information she needs to kind of decide what to do, moving forward.
Yeah, and then we just assume that he died afterwards because
Yeah,
yeah, I know
he
too
was
much and
prepared to
I'm
kill him.
cursed with knowledge.
Yes.
All that good stuff.
And so then this is where the movie gets even more interested and even more complicated. Because, like you said, Joe Fowler, she's decided, yeah, we can't do anything here, guys. Like, we don't have any more shuttles. We don't know what to do. And she also decides for some strange reason that the reason that the alien swarm attacked is because it detected, technology, which I don't think that they have a reason to actually believe that. It was like, well, you dropped something down the hole. So I don't know that you have to say, well, it was
I
technology. And so, like, but, you
Oh,
know,
okay. Now I remember where we are now. Okay,
yeah.
I'm just, this movie is so out of place. I kind of forgot where we were in our synopsis.
Yeah.
Okay, let's back up from that because here's where we actually are. Okay, so Brian, the fired astronaut, he's like, okay, he's supposed to be going to work, but KC, he's like telling all these kids like, oh, the moon's actually a mega structure and all this bloody blah stuff, right? And so he's like, okay, security, get this guy out of here. But then once he goes home and like it gets trending on Twitter that he was actually right, then Brian's like, okay, this guy means business. I'm just like, and then he goes diving through the dumpster to find his papers to see how he figured this out. And so later we skip forward because we skipped through a whole lot of little travel scenes during this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't need to figure out how people got to where they're just there.
Yeah, it happens very quickly, and it's something that's like not clear. Like, wait, how much time would you have needed to put together these new missions and all this other stuff? I thought we had a ticking clock here. The ticking clock, the director did not pay attention to at all.
Yeah, the ticking clock is how much runtime is in the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
So they
and
get
so
back
he
together.
yeah, he finds KC. He has a talk with him, and he's like, okay, you figured it out. You figured all this out before everyone else. I want to understand what happened here. And then he starts giving him this whole mega structure thing, and then Brian's like, yeah, all right, that's enough. I'm out of here. And justifiably, but he's like, why'd you even come here if you're not going to believe me? Which is also fair.
Yeah, that's a really good point because, as you said before, KC didn't do anything other than use NASA's old equipment to say the moon is literally closer to Earth. And by this point, there are already like effects of like increased gravity and all kinds of other stuff on the planet.
Yeah,
So it's like,
and not only that, Brian, you were up there. You saw the swarm
yeah,
thing first. So why are you being like, okay, this is too ridiculous for my blood?
yeah. And this is where also, oh god, like I don't want to get into it mostly, but Casey starts this whole section of the film. Casey also has like a meeting, like he's doing like a seminar at a
Yeah,
hotel
he's
or
doing like a
something.
meeting with like some people that there's like three people there that actually believe him, and there's a whole bunch of other people that are just there for free donuts.
Yeah, so like conspiracy theorists, and he's talking more about megastructures, and this is also he's talking to the kids about this. It's
Yeah,
the kind of stuff that you see online that's stupid, where it's like, of course the moon has to be fake. Why else will we have the ability to see a perfect eclipse because the moon happens to be just the perfect distance away from us and the sun to block it completely? That's got to be evidence of it being engineered. But it's like, why? What purpose does that serve? And
yeah.
so like,
I don't think people realize just how random everything in our
yeah,
universe
it's
is.
so random, but like that's the thing. Like where you could say, like, oh, that's proof of what? It makes no sense. And like there's like a large section of the film dedicated to watching KC give his conspiracy theory speeches about stuff like this, and people were like, yeah, I guess we should believe this guy.
Yeah, just okay. Let's just take a quick pause, real quick, before I give a quick PSA here. Let's pause, pay some bills, and we'll come back.
Yeah, okay. Has your life been negatively impacted by the moon's sudden and unexpected hurtle towards Earth? You may be entitled to financial compensation. At Lunar Law Associates, we specialize in moon related injuries, included but not limited to being crushed by lunar debris. Did a rogue moon fragment land on your car, house, or favorite park? You shouldn't have to pay for that. We'll fight for you. Tidal wave damage. If your property was washed away by a moon induced super tsunami, we'll drown the insurance companies in paperwork until they pay up. General inconvenience. Late to work because of low gravity fluctuations, car trouble due to unexpected lunar magnetism, we'll find a way to sue somebody for that. And for a limited time, use promo code POSTMORTEM for a free legal consultation plus a complimentary survival guide: What to Do When the Moon is Trying to Kill You. Lunar Law Associates. When the moon falls, we rise.
Okay, and we're back, and I want to come back here to do just to step out of this realm of hilarious misinformation and just come back with a quick public service announcement. Sometimes things are more simple than they actually appear to be. And sometimes, and I would love it, believe me, I would love it if our moon actually was a giant megastructure with a white dwarf star in the middle of it. I would love that. But the reality is, sometimes things are just simpler than they think they are. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. The moon is just a bunch of rock that just happens to be orbiting us. That's all it is. So don't put on your tinfoil hats and don't just be like, they're trying to lie to us. They're trying to make us believe this. Stop and ask yourself, why? Why would they want us to believe this? What purpose would they have for any of us to believe that the moon is just the moon?
Yeah, exactly. And more importantly, think the other way. If I told you the moon was a giant megastructure filled with a white dwarf star, you'd be like, no, it's not. It's just a rock.
Yeah.
I think a lot
And
of time conspiracy theories just have to accept the fact you just don't like believing what you're told. It doesn't matter what I told you. You want to believe the opposite. So yes, I will tell you the moon is a giant megastructure. Now you won't believe me. Good.
yeah,
Yeah, and so at this point in the story, like I said, Fowler, she is giving up. They're like, okay, we don't know what to do. I guess everybody's gonna kind of hide and go to Colorado for some
for
reason.
some reason.
Because she's like telling her son, with her, now
Yeah.
her kind of ex-husband, a different guy.
Giving
And
each other they're like giving each other goodbyes or whatever over the
yeah,
phone.
and
He's like, I'm going into a bunker, and she's like, okay, we'll meet you there and whatever. And it's revealed that the for some reason now the moon is now into NASA's not is out of NASA's hands, it's now into the military's hands. So I'm like, oh God, what are they about to do? And so Halle Berry's like, you're not about to use nukes, are you? And I'm just like, is that what we're doing? We're gonna nuke the moon once it gets close enough?
yes, and so her ex-husband is Air Force Chief of Staff. His name is Doug. And this whole film, like, basically revolves around him kind of giving her information about what the military is doing. So it's like he's military, she's NASA. So he's telling her, like, hey, just FYI, we're gonna, use nukes, we're gonna do that, and this, that, and the other. And she, while talking to her son, realizes, like, oh, wait, we do have a space shuttle that we could use for another moon mission if we
Yeah.
want to. It's in Los Angeles in a museum.
Yeah. And real quick, just before we get into that, I cannot begin to explain why it is such a terrible idea to nuke the moon.
I refuse to even discuss that. I'm glad you brought it up because I won't even get into how dumb that is.
I cannot begin to explain how much of a terrible idea that is. Like, you have no idea how stupid that idea could be. And yet, this is what the fondest, like, suits and, like, badges over there in the military think is the best idea to do when the moon is getting too close. Nuke it. I was just like, see, this is what I said earlier. Just when you think this movie reaches its peak of stupid, it keeps going.
Yeah, it makes no sense. It makes no sense in terms of they want to do it when the moon is at its absolute closest to Earth. And so it's like, wait, so that at that point the pieces would still hit the planet. So what exactly is your plan? It can't be to simply just annihilate every single
Yeah. Okay.
bit of
Because
moon rock.
okay, because at this point in the movie, they still think the moon is just the moon, right? And so they think like, oh, once the moon gets closer into orbit, it'll be ripped apart by gravity, and chunks will go raining down to whatever, right? Causing damage on like a global scale. So okay, here's our solution: we blow it up.
Yeah.
Okay, and but that's just gonna be the same thing anyway. So, and plus now we it's nukes. That stuff just won't go away. What about all the radiation, all the fallout that's gonna be going everywhere? We'll be okay. We're on the ground.
Yeah, it's really, like I said, it's lazy, bizarre plot point because even in Armageddon, they said, like, yeah, if it was just an asteroid in that movie, yeah, shooting a nuke at the surface is not gonna blow it up completely. You would have to explode it in the like inside of it or something. But that's not their plan. Their plan is just to shoot all of our nukes at the moon right when it's closest to Earth. You're like literally a couple, 1,000 feet above the planet. It makes no sense at all.
Yeah, it just real quick, just while you're here, just keep our podcast open in like a separate tab and just open Google real quick. I want you to look up how big the moon actually is compared to Earth. I just take a look at that real quick as a quick comparison and then come back. You'll realize why we're saying this is a terrible idea.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Like a better plan would have simply been we're going to either stay underground somehow or to simply leave the planet. Neither of those things is what they plan to do in the film.
Yeah, a how much better idea would have been just go underground. Instead, they're just like, okay, we're gonna take this problem and make it even worse. I don't know if this is just to highlight how gung ho the military actually is, but this is so ridiculous that it's unbelievable. It's unbelievably stupid to where
Like I said, like I didn't believe that this would be like it's just too lazy writing to say like, oh yeah, this is what the military is gonna do. They're gonna try to nuke it. They're gonna try to take control. Where it just doesn't seem rational to think that
yeah.
would even work. And again, in better bad science fiction films like Armageddon, they seem clear like, yeah, that won't work. That's dumb.
Well, for those of you that are listening, be like, man, this sounds ridiculous. There's no way this movie's actually like this. First of all, yes, it is. Please buy this movie right now to watch it. You will not believe it. And number two, we both watched this sober.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
this is just
doubt
how
this was written sober.
this was just how off the wall this movie is, and we're only halfway through it.
Yeah. And so at this point, thanks to seeing her son having a little toy of the Space Shuttle Endeavour, Joe Fowler realizes, oh, yeah, the Endeavour is in a museum in Los Angeles, which I've actually seen. It's a very nice kind of display. And
Space is cool. Yeah.
yeah, they decide, okay, we're going to go get that space shuttle, which took an amazingly long time to move into place to get it in a museum. We're just going to get that and
Yeah.
set it up and go launch. I won't
Yeah,
get
just
into how impossible that is.
yeah, just forget the entire building where the moon's crashing in. Just I imagine what they did, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I imagine they tried to like, actually, now that I think about it, I don't know how they did it. Actually, I was trying to apply some logic to it, but that's my biggest mistake, trying to apply logic to Moonfall.
Yeah, that's a problem because they show one scene of them driving they show one scene of them driving, a big truck with the space shuttle Endeavor on the back. That took so long in Los Angeles where they had to shut down streets, cut down trees, all kinds of stuff to get it in place. Not to mention how long it's been there and the fact that it's decommissioned along with all the equipment and other stuff. It's just not feasible. It makes no sense.
Yeah. Like, okay. So we're at this. We're getting a plan now. We're gonna go up there and whatever, right? See what's there. Because them so far they still don't know what's actually in the moon right now.
Yeah, their plan is just to
Go
say
up there and see. That's pretty much where they are right now.
they know what's up there. They think that, we can still use the EMP. And so she talks to her ex-husband, and that's where he's like, oh, yeah, we got that EMP. And so we can just use that, take it up there, but we need a shuttle. So they get the shuttle, and we can use the moon's gravity to help us get back into space.
Well, okay. Oh, we're getting to that. We're getting to that because this is my best. This is my favorite part of the movie. Okay, real quick though. For some reason, Halle Berry's like, okay, we need to get Brian because he knew this was happening before everyone else did back in 10 years ago. We didn't believe him. We need to get him on the crew. I'm just like, okay, sure. But how are we going to find him? He's literally anywhere right now. And miraculously, the military finds him.
Yes.
Somehow they just find him in the middle of nowhere.
Along with KC. And again, as we review movies, hopefully this will be, something you can pick up on. The convenience of having two things right next to each other. So it's like, oh, great. KC and Brian happen to be right next to each other. We're going to need them both for the second and third act. So convenient.
Oh, yeah. And I forgot about this because it was so hilarious to me because it was so terribly written. But you remember the scene where like the tide is coming into the hotel and they're just like sitting there staring at the tide and there's like, oh, everybody, we need to get upstairs. And Casey's just still there looking at it.
Yeah, that scene made no sense at all. Casey literally watches a giant tidal wave enter the hotel lobby, knock him down, where he's like, I can't swim. Everybody else has made it up to the stairs, and they were just kind of pointing out to Brian, like, he's over there. Go get over there. Nobody's really helping to rescue him. So I'm like, man, your conspiracy theory friends don't like you.
Yeah, it was a solid 20 seconds of the tide coming in and then getting inside the hotel. And then in that time, they all got upstairs, so he just stood there and watched for some reason. It was, my God. Okay, just wanted to give that little nugget right there.
Yeah, again, I forgot to highlight just how horrible that scene was. Some of the other parts about like the tidal wave just kind of drowning out the whole city were well done because again, this is where Emmerich does disaster really well. But
yeah, there are some pretty cool disaster scenes here. Like you get that sort of like, oh, tides and boats are crashing to buildings, like fish are like falling and doing like all this other crap or whatever. It looks kind of cool, but you're still watching Moonfall, so you're just like, man.
He's done it better before. He did it better in 2012. He did it better in The Day After Tomorrow. So like he's trying to repeat himself. It's not as good, but those things are always kind of cool.
Yeah, you always want to get those good, those cookie cutter action in like disaster scenes. Something that I still think was done a little bit better in the Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Yes, exactly.
when Ghidorah shows up, there's a storm and everything. That was cool.
And so at this point, they are ready to launch Space Shuttle Endeavour with the EMP on board.
Oh, wait. You're skipping ahead again.
I'm trying to get it over with.
I know you are, but I think people just need to understand just how stupid this movie is. Okay, so they're about to get to there, and so Brian's like, I don't want to be a part of this. He's like, I'm done. I don't want to do this. And so he's like, Halle Berry's like, okay, what do you want? Okay, if I'm if I'm gonna do this, I need you to help me. Get my son out of prison.
Oh yeah, yeah. I forgot about that. Yes.
Yeah, and so so his son is here. They fly his son here for reasons, I guess. just have a just to try to cheap with a emotional moment, I guess, where he's just like trying to get his son to forgive him, or whatever, for some reason. Again, I still don't know why everyone even hates him.
Yeah, and that's where I'm glad you brought that up. That was another thing I thought was odd. His son is still in jail when it seems like the civilization that we know is practically ending.
Yeah,
Like,
how is he still in jail?
his son is still in just general lockup? Where, that his father couldn't just be like, wait, I would have assumed, again, like, I'm just basing this off things that really happened. There's like, if there's a hurricane coming, I'm sure there's a protocol for saying, like, look, we need to let people out on general release. Maybe you give them an order of return, but you don't just say, like, oh, yeah, the moon is crashing into the world. There are cities that are being destroyed. They're evacuating the West Coast, but you're still in jail, young man.
Yeah, like, even though we're all about to die, your charges are still there, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay, and so here's we are. Here we are back. So we're all fixing the spaceship up. We're all getting the parts together, doing the math and whatever. Remarkably quick, mind you.
Yeah, very quickly.
We're taking a dilapidated spaceship that's been in a museum for the past how many years, and we're getting it ready to launch in the orbit. Not orbit, but towards the moon. And so a huge gravity wave happens to where the moon is close enough to where it's causing earthquakes on Earth. Science be damned, right there.
Exactly. Yeah, won't even get into how that's not possible, but
And so it cracks one of the coolants on the airship, and so they can only fly with one engine. And so, like, Brian's like, okay, how we fix this? How we fix this? Because there's got to be a way to fix this, because we have to get this done. And Halle Berry's like, we don't know, nobody knows how to fix it, and all the greatest minds are here right now trying to fix this. So he's like, okay, what do we do? And they're just like, okay, well, I guess that's it. It's time for everyone to go home now.
Yeah. Their solution is just to quit, and that's it.
Just the solution is, all right, we did our best. Time to go home.
Everybody should go be with their families in Colorado. And then you see, it seems like everybody but our heroes leave.
Actually leave
The entire, Air Force base. Which was very bizarre, because you know who didn't leave? All of the children who are with our heroes, which made no sense to me, except for the fact that the third act requires them to go on this long, convoluted journey, which we'll get into. But
we'll get to that, yeah.
So you decided to call it quits, and you didn't send the kids on that plane out of here? Like, why do you literally have like a 6-year-old here, with you? It makes no sense.
Yeah, and even better, why is his son still here?
Yeah.
Why was he even here to begin with? All you could have said was, we got him out. Let's do this. But no, he had to physically be here just to have that little reunion moment. That lasted about 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's terrible writing. And we'll get into the family dynamics later.
Yeah, but even better with the logic here is that, okay, Casey's in the board with the two other NASA heads that are still here for some reason, and they're doing like calculations. And like Casey's like, no, wait, the moon's close enough. Well, we can just fly without the engine, and that's the solution. Just fly without it.
The solution is to let the moon's gravity pull the shuttle to it. And so they were like, yes, let's do this. And they literally give another ticking clock. Great. We have 28 minutes to do this, Brian. Do you want to help us? At this point, everybody but 2 other NASA, staff people and the protagonists are there. And they have 28 minutes to launch a shuttle.
It was so, like, the fact that she's like, okay, we figured out everything we could. Time for everyone to go home. And then 5 minutes later, wait, we can just fly without it. Because the gravity's weakened.
And now at this point, she's like, okay, we're going to do this. Brian's going to do it. Casey's going to do it, because we're going to need a smart guy who can do calculations, without a computer on this mission. Oh, crap. We got to figure out what to do with all these kids. So you guys are going to drive to Colorado now.
Okay, even better. Yeah. And so while they're like launching, they're like 5, 4. Then Brian's like, oh, just screw it. Let's just launch. Why are we counting down? Let's do this. And so for some reason, I forgot his what was his son's the son's name? I'll remember.
I don't remember his name.
Yeah, for some reason his son he is sitting there watching the spaceship go up when he should have been long gone by now. And bear with you, while they're launching, the tide is coming
Yeah, there's
like
a
immediately.
mountain tidal wave, coming towards them, and they're just
And,
stopping to
and yet
watch.
there's the stopping to watch. And so they waited till the tide was close enough to get in the car, and they're literally racing against the tide.
Yes, there are multiple scenes like that, and I think that's one of the worst tropes that Emmerich actually puts into most of his films. The idea that at a certain point, if you can drive fast enough, you can survive. Doesn't matter if the crust of the earth is actually splitting apart and falling into
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
sea.
it happens
Lead
twice
footed,
in this movie.
lead
It
footed,
happens
you can
twice to
get
where
out.
if you just drive fast, all your problems will be solved. It happens literally twice.
So yes, his son drives away,
Outracing
from
a tide as big as a
a
mountain.
just hit 65, you'll be okay. The actual space shuttle gets engulfed in water because that's how big the tidal wave is, but somehow it still has enough power to lift off, and to get into orbit. And the
Yeah.
scene I thought was hilariously unnecessary. The only other two NASA staff scientists who helped them do the calculations, who also waited until the last second to get
Oh
to their
yeah.
helicopter to get out, you get to see them get completely killed in their helicopter.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's even better. Yeah. So when you're watching the movie, you can see that the pilot, for some reason, veered left instead of
Yeah,
right. So like the
exactly.
pilot's literally just like nosedives into the wave. You're just like, why'd you go that way?
Yeah, so this is probably one of the biggest scenes of just terrible science for so many reasons because it's not. Well, I won't even get into that. But anyway,
uh, I was going to say, let's just not even address the
yeah,
elephant
we'll
in the
keep,
room
yeah, keep
that helicopters are still working with lessened gravity or something.
yeah, gravity is very selective in this scene and the rest of the film. It doesn't really make sense ever.
Dare I say, I don't think Roland Emmerich actually knows how gravity works.
Yeah, like I said, it depends on what they need for the actual, scene. Okay, so now that our heroes are on board the space shuttle and they are on their way to the moon in an attempt to prevent the oncoming catastrophe, I think that's a great place for us to pause our Moonfall discussion for this episode of Movie Postmortem. Don't forget to like and subscribe and give us 5 stars because even bad podcasts deserve a good review. Remember, whether it's good, bad, or just a guilty pleasure, every movie deserves a postmortem. We'll be back in a couple of days for Moonfall Part 2. Thanks for listening.